Hello.
Well, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. How are we doing,
And
President?
good night.
And good night.
Well, hopefully you won't say good night because I say happy Name Your Poison Day.
Oh, what is it? Oh, is that, is it by a priest of beer day?
No, it's happy Name Your Poison Day.
Oh, it is? Okay.
Yes, so what's your poison?
Ooh, Lagavulin. And yours?
Arsenic, I find, is very effective.
Well, yeah, but I can't drink too much of that. So, and yours?
Oh, it's hard to choose. I'll say Macallan.
I was going to say there's probably going to be Macallan. So, so we got a couple of things.
Yeah, well, we're back up from our 1 week hiatus. Before we jump in, we want to thank our guest.
We want to thank Ted and Diane, who flew all the way in from Florida flew all the way from Florida to be at our festival, which was absolutely great. And as in their manner and style, they brought us a couple of gifts also too, which was really nice. Mm-hmm. But we introduced them to, well, I shouldn't say introduced. I mean, they already know what a lamb shank is, but we introduced them to the ginormous size of our lamb shanks. I mean, that was incredible, right? The size of those.
Yeah, it was.
That was just awesome. So we had the gyros, we had the lamb shanks, the baked chicken. They took the church tours. The wine tasting. Yeah. Our wine tasting went very well. We had 50 tickets and we sold 50 tickets. So people like wine tasting. Who'd have thunk it, right?
Here in New York, that's kind of what everybody does.
Yeah. So
next year we should have more of that, but also include a private corner for whiskey tasting.
And do maybe a whiskey tasting. I don't know how we're going to fit that into the whole Greek thing, but it'll
be Father Angelo's private stock.
Private stock.
There we go.
Exactly.
You just got to know how to market it.
So our festival went very, very well. Thank you to everybody who supported the festival, who worked at the festival, who volunteered, who cooked. I mean, it was just a really, really nice showing of volunteers and a showing of the community. So we did very, very well. What else we got?
It's been 2 weeks since I've been sitting here because we didn't have the festival last week, and then the week before that we had a guest.
Oh, that's right. We had Father Robert Picken from St. Paul's Episcopal Church. In fact, I had the Interfaith Luncheon today, so I saw him again, and so I thanked him for taking time to participate in the show and just have that discussion, just like we had with Rabbi Peter Stein, and I really, really enjoyed it. I thought it was a lot of fun having him on the show. He enjoyed it, so more of that to come.
Yeah, we got some interesting responses to that as well. And the only thing I would say is that it's we both believe that three of us believe that it's very important to have knowledge, and that knowledge is power. And just because we have a guest doesn't necessarily mean that we're in agreement with them or that we're platforming. But we like to have the discussion. We like to see where those differences are, and more importantly, if somebody asks us at any point now, why aren't you this denomination? Why aren't you that denomination? We can just reply with something stronger than, this is what I was just born into.
Right.
So that's one of the reasons that we're pursuing these kind of conversations, and we welcome everybody to join us for the ride.
Yeah, it's not just the patriarch that's involved in this, right? We're here at the grassroots level.
Yes, we are. Yes.
Bootstrapping.
And speaking of the festival, it's a good thing the festival was last week and not this week with the weather out there.
This week we've got
by a day we beat it.
Yeah,
by 1 day. Yeah. Unfortunately, the wildfires from Canada now have settled into Rochester. Rochester was pretty good today, though. Not too bad. Not too bad.
It's a little cooler. Is that from the sun being kind of blocked from?
Well, we also had some rainfall, but essentially for those who are not in America, the Canadian wildfires basically covered the entire northeast of the United States, and it looked like a scene out of Blade Runner 2049 for a while.
Yeah, the way the sun was orange, and it was pretty wild.
For a few hours, Rochester was reported as, I think, the most polluted city in the country because of it, and I think New York City took it over after us, but we wanted to very quickly, and Father and I discussed this, doing a quick prayer for those who are having respiratory issues, and then once again for the railway disaster that happened in India.
In India. So we want to do a prayer for both of those. So, okay. So, glory to the Father, to the Son, to the Holy Spirit, now and forever, to the ages of ages. Amen. O our God, who is our help in time of need, and who is just and merciful, and who inclines to the supplication of his people, we ask that you look down upon us and have mercy on us, and deliver those who now are in turmoil. And we acknowledge and believe, O Lord, that all the trials of this life are disposed by you for our chastisement when we drift away and disobey your commandments. Deal not with us according to our iniquities, but in your manifold mercy we ask that you look after the work of your hands, and through your divine and helping grace that you endow us with patience and strength to endure these tribulations. For you know our misery and our suffering, and you are our only hope and refuge that we flee to for relief and comfort, and we trust in your infinite love and compassion. And we ask then that you deliver us and from those who are suffering in this time of trouble, as they turn our distress into comfort. For we shall rejoice in your most holy, majestic name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit, now and forever, to the ages of ages. Amen. I'm not good at extemporaneous prayer, so I have the PreService Book, and it provides a prayer that I think fits each one of our situations. So I like to go.
And as we're about to jump into questions, I will point out one absurd but positive spin on this, that the fires only began to spread after Orthodox Pentecost. So yeah,
after Orthodox Pentecost. I do want to say one more thing, and then we'll get into it. I received this book from the Archdiocese, not just me, but all of the priests. And what this is these are different studies and sermons and lectures that have been compiled by the most notable professors of Holy Cross Seminary, Archbishop Demetrius being one of the first, and Father Stylianopoulos is in there, Father Eugene Pentioch is in there, Father Dragas is in there, and so this is an excellent collection. And just to kind of give you a quick sampling here, in one of Father Dragas's homilies, he speaks about what did Christ do when he descended into Hades, the method of victory that Christ applied, what the Christ did to the devil and death. And so we have that. Very, very interesting. We have from Father Eugene Pentioch, we have a Semitic way of looking at the end of times as he relates the Old Testament apocalyptic vision to the New Testament apocalyptic vision. So there's a lot of really interesting articles as I'm reading through this. And so I just wanted to present this as another book that we're going to add to our library here.
They don't seem very long either. It seems like they're very quick read.
Yes.
All right. Are you ready to jump in, or is there anything else
nope.
that you needed to?
I am ready. I got the Bible ready to go, and just in case.
Okay. First up is Nick. Good evening from outside of Winnipeg, Canada.
Oh, wow.
Are we obligated to make the cross when we pass non-Orthodox churches, United, Catholic, Lutheran, etc., or just Orthodox churches?
No, we're not obligated to do it, but again, it is a place that worships the triune God. And so in that place, we know that people gather there to worship the triune God. So I see absolutely no problem in us making the sign of the cross when we pass by a non-Orthodox church. But no, we're under no obligation for that.
I've also heard the same, and a lot of Greeks do that when they pass by cemeteries. Is that something that's required, or is that just a traditional thing?
It's just a small T tradition that we do. So absolutely. Mm-hmm.
All right. Fyodor Dostoevsky asks, is it possible to love somebody with the divine, compassionate type of love that Jesus preached about and then stop loving that person?
No. Because, and I take that from from St. John Climacus in the Divine Ladder. The last step of his Divine Ladder is?
You always put me on the spot.
Is love. Okay.
Well, okay. Well, I was going to say love. That was a pretty good guess.
All right. So he takes you through the vices, he takes you through the virtues, and he ends with love. And he says, if you think that you have achieved this step, go back to the first rung, because now you have committed the sin of pride. So on earth, it is impossible for us to love with that divine love, that perfect love. That's something that's reserved for us in heaven. We can approximate it, as the fathers have said, but if we have perfect love, then it would be impossible for us to stop loving, because then we would say that Jesus' love has a limitation, that there's something that we could do that would put us outside of his love. So the answer to that is no.
Okay. All right. I'm going to skip around a little bit to give everybody a chance. I'll come back up to those I miss. Sentinel Sanctuary asks, I hear Christ and Peter use Greek mythological terms like Hades and Tartarus. Yes. Mm-hmm. Is it improper to use the term karma in our time?
Well, okay. So remember, the Orthodox theology uses philosophical terms. So we do use philosophy, and that philosophy came from the ancient Greeks. So a lot of that is going to be part of the gospel because of who was being preached to. Okay, so these are things, especially to the diaspora and to the Greeks and to those who studied Greek, these terms would have become familiar, just like any good storyteller knows his audience. All right, so there's of course the debate that can be had about what is the role that philosophy plays in terms of theology, but we're not going to answer that question now. But we have certainly been impacted by that, and so that's how that kind of falls into the Gospels. So I don't see anything wrong with that because it helps us to understand. But the other part was we used this. There was like a second part.
Oh, is it okay to use the word karma in our time?
So now, because karma implies another theological idea, okay, we can kid around with that, but we have to be very careful that we don't use it in a theological sense. So we don't believe in this idea that the negative energy that we send out then brings back negative energy to us. So we don't see it in that kind of relationship. Of course, if we treat somebody badly, we would expect then, or most likely, that person then would have negative feelings towards us, and we can disguise that or talk about that as karma, but that's just a consequence of our action and not an energy that's coming back to us.
I don't know, is the saying, how does it go now? We reap what we sow. Is that kind of like karma? The same idea? What you do comes back to you.
Well, again, I'm hesitating to make that relationship because karma implies, because of that concept of energy being transferred back and forth. You reap what you sow just means there's no energy involved. It's a secular idea. If you do something bad or something good, then you can expect something bad or something good as a consequence. But it has nothing to do with energy or theology or anything like that.
Right. All righty. Santaman 1 says, when going through catechism into Orthodoxy, I was told the Eastern Church's dome remind us of heaven reaching down to protect the church, whereas the Western churches have steeples signifying reaching up to heaven. Actually, when I was still an Episcopalian, my bishop described it as a tricycle. The two rear wheels, tradition and reason, held up the faith, while the front wheel, scripture, steered the course.
I would go with the first. I would go with the first part. I'm a little unclear about.
He's relating, and the I'm kind of curious about that. So, what that contradiction between the East and the West. So, for us, it's heaven reaching down to protect the church. But for the West, the steeples are reaching up onto heaven. So that is very much the opposite approach. So what distinguishes us? Why do we take that approach?
No, you have to look at it in the totality. So the Western idea is that man reaches up to God, And in the Eastern theology, it is that God becomes man and comes to us. So it's two halves of an entire whole. So we have to see it in both senses. It's not wrong to have a steeple. It's not wrong to have a dome, but we have to see the whole thing as a piece together. We reach to God, but also God becomes man and comes down to us.
Okay, sounds good. Leah Michael asks, why are girls not allowed to hold the cross or the cherubim? They don't need to go in the altar. They can be given to them outside the altar.
I don't know either, because when I was you can remember when I was in Kalamazoo, right? I just didn't have altar boys. It was a small parish, and so that's what I did. Is I brought a couple of young girls that were willing to do it, and I put the exapteriga, the cherubim and the cross, and I put them out in front and outside of the altar, and they carried them around. Mm-hmm. So I don't know why. I did it.
Right. And I think that they were doing that when we got there. The previous priest, I believe,
yes,
also had them helping.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. Carol Flower says, thank you so much for the pocket prayer book for Orthodox Christians.
Oh, she did get it. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Sorry, everything here, unfortunately, with me runs on Greek time. So you tell me to get it to you, and then I delay, and then I finally get it to you. So I'm glad that you finally did get it.
Oh, wait, how long was it before?
It was a couple of weeks. I was remiss in my...
Holy Trinity is the only true God says, I want to start saying, I really appreciate you all for the work you do. May Christ our God bless you.
Ooh, thank you.
My question is about the coffee hour after the Divine Liturgy. Is this an American thing, or are churches all around the world having it?
Or Orthodox churches around the world.
Oh yes, yeah. Orthodox churches.
Well, that's a good question. When certainly it is an American tradition. Every single Orthodox church that I have been to in America, and I have been to every single Orthodox church in America.
They've been to a lot.
We've been to a lot, and they have coffee hour.
They all have coffee hour, yeah.
When I was in Greece over those couple of summers with Gabby, okay, the kind of a I think a funny story. The bishop of the monastery that we were staying, wasn't really a monastery, but we were staying. He said, "You can stay here free, but I'd just like you to help out." And I said, "Okay." And so he asked me, he says, "Do you have a identification card?" And I said, "Yes." And I showed it to him. He goes, "Oh." He says, "This is a driver's license." I said, "Yes." He goes, "Good. You're my driver, so you will drive me around." So I got to drive around with him to all the different churches, around, and they all had coffee hours afterwards. We all came out and we sat down with the people and had a little bit of Greek coffee. They brought out their cheeses and this. So I was surprised. I didn't think I was going to find that, but every single church we went. Now, I don't know if they did that because the bishop was coming. I don't know. That's what I don't know. But because I was with the bishop. But every single one of them, we went to, they sat outside and they drank their coffee and they had their desserts and everything like that. When we were in seminary and we went to go visit the Serbian church, remember, they had their coffee hour downstairs too. So I don't think that is just strictly an American tradition. I think that community sense happens across Orthodoxy.
Well, perhaps those out there watching can tell us what they've seen in Greece, since they're not with the bishop probably. They can tell us what they experienced.
So you know what? That would have been a great question. I'm going to email Svetlana and ask her if in Russia that's a practice of having coffee hour.
Now that I think about it, almost every single church I've been to in America, almost everyone, has some sort of social gathering, late breakfast kind of event after the services anyway. I don't know if that originated here, but definitely church has always been the center of a community going back ages.
Right.
So that's a remnant, as you say.
And people like getting together after the liturgy and talking, catching up and stuff like that. So
free food is always a good thing.
And free food is a good thing, yes.
Well, if they haven't had food before communion.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right, because nobody's supposed to eat.
Right. Okay. All right, Fyodor asks, does the Orthodox Church accept the 7 virtues, 4 cardinal and 3 theological?
Okay, again, we don't have categories, mortal and venial sin. I'm trying to think of
The 7 deadly sins?
7 deadly sins, So we don't have these divisions. So there's the vices, and then there are the virtues. And they are, and in fact, when I did my presentation on vainglory, we talked about this idea that there were like 8 vices, but then they combined 2, and then they became 7 vices. So yes, we have the 7, but we don't discriminate them in terms of a category.
Do you know the 7 virtues off the top of your head?
Oh, man.
I got them listed, and what I never realized, and it makes sense now they think about it, is that each one is a specific opposite of the more familiar 7 deadly sins. You got humility against pride, kindness against envy, abstinence against gluttony, chastity against lust, patience against anger, liberality against greed, and diligence against sloth.
Yeah, so where's vainglory? Vainglory is 1, see? And so that one, vainglory and pride, some of them put them together, but some of them separated it out.
So if I guess then would be penitent.
Penitent.
There we go.
The penitent man shall pass.
Yeah.
The
penitent against vainglory, and now we got humility against. Right, we're good.
And Ancient Apostolic says, Christ is in our midst.
And he is, and he was, he is, and he shall always be.
All right. Holy Trinity is the only true God. Second question, where was the Council of Chalcedon held? Of course, the city of Chalcedon, but I'm talking about the specific location. Was it a church? And if yes, what was it called? Or was it someone's house? You get the idea.
So I do believe that each one of these were held in a church, but the specific church for Chalcedon. Oh, here we go again.
More show and tell. Well, while you're looking it up, maybe you can explain to those who are not familiar with what specific, what was the significance of the Council of Chalcedon?
Okay, because I believe that at Chalcedon, partly they discussed. There was something about the Nicene Creed. I thought they also discussed again about the theology of the Holy Spirit, and I do think that there was. I think that there was some discussion about the name of the Theotokos, but I may be wrong with that.
It was the largest one apparently. Out of the first 7, it was the largest, and just on the surface, apparently one of the big topics was the divinity of Christ.
So it was again, it was continuing the Arianism conflict. Okay, let's see here.
In the meantime, how
Okay.
are you doing, Leslie?
All right. Okay.
I'm going to come up. I came up with a. Oh, go ahead.
In 451 at the Council of Chalcedon, Roman delegate says Primacies and Reply. The Greek. I thought he was going to say where Chalcedon was. This is the church history book of church history books. So that's why I'm using this. And
the most I can see is the city, but I'm not seeing anything specific. I'd have to look into a lot more.
Well, we can get back.
Yeah,
You can put that
yeah.
on
I didn't want to look it up online because, again, I trust these.
100%.
Right. Okay. Here. The Synod met in the lovely church of Saint Euphemia in the beautiful settings described by the historian Evagrius. The shrine was associated with marvels and a famous order of sanctity. So there we go. So it was held in the Church of St. Euphemia.
Congratulations, you just beat Wikipedia.
Okay. Whew. All right. So thank you, Henry Chadwick.
Okie dokie. Well, we got that answered. And then just a comment that Diane liked the pasticcio, and it was all super tasty. It was all super tasty.
It was very tasty. Yes. Very tasty.
All right. Aaron says, hi, all. When we sin, we should immediately turn to God for forgiveness, but sometimes there is a strong feeling of shame. Mm-hmm. How do we get past this feeling, especially if it's a repeat of an old sin?
Well, again, what the what the monks say is, you fall down. What's that song? I fell down, I get up again. Now fell down, I get up again. Remember that song?
Oh, yes, I know what you're talking about.
Right.
I get knocked down.
I get knocked down. I get up again. Okay. So, what shame and guilt are the devil's weapons that he uses to keep us away from Christ. We certainly acknowledge the sin, okay, and then we should strive to do better. All right. So, but what happens is we get caught up in this idea of, oh man, I know I shouldn't have done that. Oh, it's bad. And then it could be as bad as God's not going to forgive me. Or it could be just something as, well, you know what, I'm just going to give up because what can I do? So those are all tools that the devil and his demon uses. So we have to be very, very careful to avoid shame and guilt. Now, I'm not saying that we don't feel guilty for what we did. We don't blow it off and say, well, it's no big deal. Yes, it is. But what we have to then, the sin has already been committed. What we have to work on is we have to work on bringing ourselves back to Christ. So that's why I brought that song up, because we get right back up again and we do what is the right thing. So we ask for forgiveness. Obviously, the sacrament of confession is very helpful in that, to have somebody that we can be accountable to. But we have to get rid of this idea that we have to wallow in the shame and guilt. All right, those are tools of the devil. We have to recognize that what we did was wrong. We have confession as a tool, but we also then get up and we try not to sin again. We will sin again, but we just keep moving forward, and we always have hope. We always have the surety. Forget about hope. We always have the surety that God is always loving, merciful, and compassionate towards us.
There's a key word in this question that I think it's important that we focus on a little bit more, and that is old sin. And there is a certain shame, I can imagine, that if you're constantly going to confession saying, Father, my sin, I have lied to my wife again. Mm-hmm. Okay, and there's how many times as a priest, if the same person keeps coming to you and saying, forgive me, I've lied to my wife again. Like, well, what is the step that is taken? Because that is a repeating sin. That's an old sin.
All right. Now, remember, priests are not therapists. I mean, generally speaking, there are certainly priests that are trained therapists, but priests are not therapists. We are triage. We recognize an issue and a problem, okay, and then if it's beyond the capabilities of what we can do, then we will help get that person the help that they need. Maybe that's a marriage counselor. Maybe that's a therapist. Maybe that's a psychiatrist. But we assess the problem and then we get them the help that they need. So, but we don't want to look at the priest as the therapist, because that's not what his training is.
But still, how do you deal with, like, if somebody keeps coming to you with the same exact sin? Is there a procedure for that? Do you point it out? Like, okay, yeah. Yeah,
I mean, I've done that. I've done that before, and certainly in myself, I've had things that, unfortunately I've repeated, and I just got to try to get better. I mentioned that to my spiritual father, and the advice a lot of times that I give, depends upon how severe the situation is. Okay, whether I can say, this is just something I just need to check in with you a little bit more regularly, or this is something that's really severe, and this is something that maybe you should talk to a therapist about.
Or as Diane says in the next comment, it all depends upon where you fall on the candlestick.
She loves that. Ever since she heard that, she loves that.
And Aaron had a second question. Can the devil and the demons read our thoughts? And for that matter, can the angels read our thoughts?
So my answer to that is no. Okay, they cannot. Okay, but they know us, and they know our actions. They can see our actions. So just like a regular person knows kind of our hot buttons and our weaknesses, so they can also then know what those weaknesses are. But no, the angels and the demons are not mind readers.
But what about the devil?
Well, again, as the king of the demons, okay, he is not omnipotent. So that is only reserved for the triune God.
But can the devil read our thoughts?
No. At least according to Orthodox theology, he doesn't read our thoughts, but he is very wise that he can analyze who we are and know what it is that will motivate us.
So manipulation without mind reading.
Yeah, right.
So I think some people might be, I don't know if this person is asking that, but some people ask that because they worry that if you're thinking bad thoughts about the devil, they're afraid that he can read them and he's going to retaliate. I think that's for some people,
Well,
that's
if you say I hope there's no demon in this room in your head, suddenly the devil's going to hear that and put a demon there.
That's what if you think badly, they're like, oh, Satan just heard me say that, and he's going to do something to me.
Now the opposite of that, the fathers speak about. St. John Chrysostom speaks about the fact that the thought is not the sin, but that's us, that we can be tempted. So there is the idea that he can put a thought into our head, but he can't read those thoughts.
Right. Okay. All right. Valerie Chen says, hello, Father and Presbytera. Father, what's your view on using music instruments in the Divine Liturgy? I was looking at a Greek church not far from me. They use piano during Divine Liturgy. Kind of weird.
Piano?
I've never heard of piano in...
I saw it when I was in Texas, actually. They were using a keyboard down there. Not the Greek Orthodox Church, but the Anglican.
Oh, yes. Okay, that I can understand. We have... there is nothing that I know of in the Orthodox canons that allows any instrumentation. Now, that includes the organ, but the organ is more economia, right? It doesn't say we can use the organ, but we have allowed it to be there as a aid and a help. But I would imagine that any priest that is allowing the piano to be played as an instrument, that would be outside of what we would be allowed to do. Now, if they're playing the piano like we're playing the organ to give you the key note, or just to so that you can, then I guess they don't have an organ, right? So they're using the piano. But if they're actually playing the piano without hearing the human voice, I think that might be problematic.
It's most likely what you're suggesting, that they're using it in lieu of an organ.
Yeah, and if that's the case, then they're just doing what they need to do.
I sincerely doubt they're playing Great Balls of Fire.
Or
a
Rachmaninoff's concerto.
That would be interesting. Great Balls of Fire is pretty energetic song and get people going.
Yeah,
we'll save that for Pentecost.
That's right. Too bad we just missed it. Gotta wait a whole year.
You missed your rock and roll day.
All right, and now we have a suggestion. Anesti, well, not a suggestion, but Anesti Hatzizava says that Anesti's poison is bamboo craft rum.
Oh, is that something for us to try now?
I don't know.
Bamboo craft rum. All right, that's a good question for our listeners. What is your poison? That's a real thing. Poison of the day. That's what today is.
What? Oh, yeah, it really is.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I looked up. I wanted to have something fun to start out with. It was also brain tumor day, but I went with the what's your poison day.
Okay, right.
Well, no, but it's to bring awareness to brain tumor
and
people that have them.
Okay,
yes.
All right.
But that seemed a little bit heavy.
Let's see what everybody's poison is.
And then Anesti also goes on to say, blessing this Sunday on the Feast of All Saints. Loving this Q&A program. Pray for Canada.
Yes.
Yes. And then Diane, going back to our question about coffee hour, the monastery in Omilia goes to the trapeza and lunch is served.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a community event after the church.
Yeah. So, and if the monastery is doing it, we're in good shape.
Yes. All right.
And Holy Trinity is upset because they prefer tea instead of coffee.
Followed by
For
just
coffee hour.
Oh, okay. All right.
Oh, I thought they meant that was their poison. Okay. Just joking.
Oh, that could be it too.
And then they went on to say, just joking. Carol says, I was delighted to receive the prayer book. It made my day and arrived quickly. No apology needed. Much gratitude.
Oh, okay.
See, you beat Wikipedia and Amazon.
And Amazon. Wow, okay.
And then Ancient Apostolic says, how about having a priest from the Antiochian parish as a guest? Father Gregory Lazarus Murphy from St. Michael in Geneva, New York. Just a suggestion.
Actually, I've been. That's a great suggestion. I've been meaning to go down there to Geneva to meet him because it's the closest Antiochian church that we have. When I was in Flint, we had an Antiochian church there, Father Joe Aboud. So we had a really great Orthodox fellowship in Flint. That was something I really miss. And so we do have it. We do have it here, but we don't go out as often as we should. But and Father Joe Aboud was the vicar of Flint, as we used to call him. So that was, I really enjoyed that. He would have been a fun guest on the show. Oh man.
Well,
so there we go. That's something I want to look into this summer, is stop by there and just have a chance to meet Father Gregory. I've heard a lot of great things about him, and see if he'd be interested in something like that.
What do you think of these two statements from Beyond Seraphim, who says, Christ has two natures and two wills, hypostatic union? I think these are connected comments.
Well, he does have two natures and two wills. Yes.
Hypostatic union. Are you familiar with that term?
I'm familiar with the term. I guess I'm trying to connect it to the two natures and the
might be
two.
Something separate.
Okay. I mean,
what does that mean? Hypostatic union.
that Father, Son, and Holy Spirit are one in essence, okay, but hypostasis, stasis is to stand, right, and hypo is from, so to stand away from, meaning that they have a personhood. We would translate an individual personhood. The Son is the Logos, the Father is the will, and then the Holy Spirit is the grace or the blessing. But they are one in essence.
Is Christ the only one that has two natures?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Because of the being human and being God.
Human and divine, right?
Okay.
But hasn't God, the Father, appeared in different forms?
He has appeared in different forms, but not taking on flesh.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Michael asks, can Protestant Christians and Greek Orthodox pursue each other romantically?
Don't create a Romeo and Juliet situation here, Father.
No, I mean, okay. I mean, let's be fair. Let's use Rochester as an example. I performed, I think, 44 weddings here. Of those 44 weddings, okay, except for three of them, they have all been either Catholic Orthodox or they have been Protestant Orthodox. And I'd say that mix is probably about 50-50. So that's what? That's 20 marriages that are Orthodox Protestant. So the answer to that is a resounding yes.
The example from the church here is, how about us?
Oh yeah.
Which is an example in the church here.
Well, that's right, because Terry was Baptist, right, and I was Orthodox. So yes, okay. Wow, I didn't even. You've been Orthodox for a while. I just totally forgot. Okay.
Does the church frown on this, or are there sects of Orthodoxy that are against this practice?
Oh yeah, I mean, you're talking about inter-Christian marriage. Yes, there are absolutely sects that, in fact, when this at one of the holy synods back, whether it was 2015.
So about the one where they all went except for a few. That was in 15 or 16, I think.
Towards the Great and Holy Council. All right. The Sacrament of Marriage and its impediments. Okay, and one of the discussions was just that: can there be an inter-Christian marriage? That was one of the discussions, and the bishops from America were saying, I don't even know why this is on the table because we've been doing this for years now. Okay, so why is this a question? But that was a question that came up.
And they were shocked.
And
the other ones.
And they were shocked that this was actually happening.
Did they have a conclusion, or was it
No, there was no conclusion. It rested with, we have to discuss this.
And then it was never brought up again.
That's. I just wanted to see if I could. All right. So, concerning item number 5 under section 2, impediments to marriage. Concerning mixed marriages of Orthodox Christians with non-Orthodox Christians or non-Christians, marriage between Orthodox with non-Orthodox Christians is forbidden and is not blessed in the Church according to Acrivia of Canon 72 of the Quintessence Ecumenical Council. However, such a marriage can be blessed by dispensation with the condition that children born of this marriage will be baptized and raised within the Orthodox Church. Okay, so marriage between Orthodox and non-Orthodox Christian, or not, well, we know that. Okay, so there you go. So it states here that we have not yet rescinded Canon 72 that prevents marriage between Orthodox and non-Orthodox. So we are continuing to do it under economia and dispensation.
All right. And then Diane replied, yes, but the Orthodox Church will not accept a Protestant unless that person converts.
But that's not true, because the 20 marriages that the 20 some odd marriages that I've done, they did not convert. They remained Protestant, right? Now it has to be true Protestantism in the sense of belief in the Holy Trinity, baptism in the name of the Holy Trinitarian baptism. So it has to be those things. They have to believe in a Trinitarian God.
And just to be specific, Beyond Seraphim pointed out that this was a continuation on the topic of the Chalcedon Council. And goes on to suggest the more we marry outside and convert, the more we can grow the faith.
I do believe that, because I do believe that and I'm certainly going to have people that disagree with this, but I believe that we are, as Greeks, being saved by those who are coming to our church outside of our culture, because as Greeks we take advantage of our we take advantage of our faith, and we just kind of
take it for granted.
So yeah, see, that's so we take advantage. What did I say? Granted. We take our faith for granted, and we don't really study it. We don't really, we just kind of robotically attend it.
We were born in it. We were
born in it. But when Terry came into the faith, she had questions. Why did you do this? Why did you do that? And then that made me want to study why we do what we do. And the more I discovered why we do what we do, the more orthodoxy made sense to me. So in a large respect, a big part of our salvation will come through those people who will ask those questions and are interested not just in the Greekness of the faith, but in the orthodoxy of the faith.
Would you say that, I mean, when we're born, right? We're born into a world. I mean, obviously we know what we believe. But we're also born in a world where there have been thousands upon thousands of religions and faith. And I think that to a degree there is a little bit of an arrogance to believe that, well, I just happened to be born in the right one without, exploring and finding out if that is really what you believe.
That's okay. Yeah, that's right, because all of us, when we were in our 20s and 30s, or 20s, we did exploration. We did. I did that. I asked questions because I didn't know anything about orthodoxy, so I thought, well, let me see what these others are, and then I found out what they are, and then I asked questions back to orthodoxy.
I think understanding the faith the eventual result will be to strengthen that faith.
Yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
We have a quick super chat from Miggs.
All right, Miggs.
Who asks, what if the family, this is a continuation, what if the family decides not to raise their children in the Orthodox way after their marriage?
Well, then we place our hope in the godparent. So remember, the requirement during the requirement for baptizing a child is that the godparent must be Orthodox. The parents don't have to be Orthodox, but the godparent must be Orthodox so that there is an Orthodox presence in that home. Okay? So if the parents are negligent in the faith, it is the responsibility, and I mean the salvific responsibility of the godparent, to take an active role in that child's life and to help and be their spiritual guide. So there is a safety net put in place by Orthodoxy.
All right. And then Ted said the song you were referring to earlier is by Tub Thumping.
No way.
Yes.
That's a band? Tub Thumping?
Yes. They're, okay, Ted, are they Irish? I think they're Irish. I'm not sure. Ted will tell us. Ted knows all that stuff.
Oh, wow. Okay.
All right. I won't say the title, but everybody, well, I could, but I suppose. I don't know if
you think Ted is as good in music as you are? I mean,
I don't know. Maybe.
Okay.
I don't
The name
know.
of the song, it's a different way of saying we're leaving the night away.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So I can avoid that other.
Yes, okay.
Not that YouTube will have too much of an issue with that word, but
Yes,
Yeah.
right. Mm-hmm.
It also depends on what era music we're talking about.
Yes. Oh, that's true.
Yes. Carol Flower, about prayer and fasting for sin. I want and need to quit smoking. Any recommendations for prayer and fasting? How many consecutive days without food?
Well, I can't give an answer on that because quitting smoking involves science and prayer. I mean, yes, certainly there are people who are of a spiritual sufficiency that they can through prayer avoid certain habits that they have. But I don't think that the vast majority of us have that spiritual level or that
drive. I don't know.
The spiritual drive. So I'd say that this is a combination. What I mean is that there are certain medical treatments that can help you stop smoking. But where prayer is helpful is that when you feel that urge to smoke, which is both biological but is also kind of in your head, that you can divert yourself and say, that's the time when I need to say the Jesus prayer. That's the time when I need to say a particular prayer about guide me and help me so that I don't smoke. So that you take your mind and put it in the right place. So that's how those two can work together.
If I may, I personally would caution against fasting and quitting smoking at the same time. only if only for one reason, because you're fighting against, or you quit smoking, you're creating a void, and you're constantly, there's a want that you want to fill. If you stop eating, now you're fighting against two voids.
Yeah, and that can be be very overwhelming.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a good point. So I would avoid the fasting probably, and then just stay with the idea of, what is that medical help that I need, and then use prayer to keep you focused on when you suffer temptation, that you can focus your mind back on God.
Yeah, I mean, I've never smoked, so I don't know what it's like to give up smoking, but from what I've heard, most people, when they give up smoking, they eat in place of the smoking. So trying to fast while you're wanting to eat, that's a double
got
to be torture.
Yeah, so be careful with that. Yes.
Yeah. And then Diane says she wants to buy a few dead cats for the outdoor microphones.
Oh yeah, I assume it was for the Iron Chef setup they had out there. With there was a bit of a microphone issue, which Diane, I can happily say that had nothing to do with me. But I will accept. I guess I don't want to say I accept dead cats, but I know what you're talking about.
What is she
that
talking
furry
about?
thing, right?
The wind cover on.
Oh, the wind. Oh, okay, gotcha. All right.
Yeah.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
We do not encourage dead cats.
Yeah, I was like, ooh, where's that going?
I don't know if I want to say that. Like, no, you can just fax me the dead cats. I think that.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense either. Moving on.
Moving on, Holy Trinity is the only true God comments that Christ God says he is the one who reads our minds and hearts.
And as omnipotent, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Outside of God, are there any other entities mentioned in the Bible that have the ability to read our minds?
I'm thinking, Old Testament now. The prophets, did not. They were given visions, and God put words into their into their heart. But no, they didn't. They weren't able to read minds or anything like that. I can't right off the bat think of any situations where there was mind readers.
Doesn't the classic possession indicate a certain level of being able to read thought?
No. I think it's just a submission of will of the person, but not a reading of the thoughts.
Mm-hmm. Right. Okay. All right. Natalia, why do you think St. John Chrysostom felt the need to shorten St. Basil the Great's divine liturgy?
Well, okay. Now remember, what you hear the priests say is, except for a few spaces, a few places, is not different. So what the congregation hears is the same thing. What the issue was the length of the private prayers, and so you'll hear in many of St. John Chrysostom's homilies and commentaries, well, especially homilies, you'll hear him complain about the lack of attention of the people who were listening. Okay, so he knows that in order for the liturgy to be effective, that it only had to be a certain amount of time. Now, I say that knowing full well that St. John Chrysostom gave homilies that lasted 4 to 5 hours. Okay, but that was entertainment, because it's not like today where I give a sermon, and everybody sits back and listens or sleeps. I mean, most of the time. Okay, this was an engaging. They would engage him. So for them, this was TV. I mean, he would give a sermon, he would talk, he would speak, and then they would shout something back at him, and say, "No, I can't believe it." So it was entertainment for them.
Did they heckle him?
And he even writes that they did to heckle him, and he gave these tips on how he would give his sermons, and then he would talk about stuff knowing full well that they weren't listening, but then he would hammer home a point. liturgy is different because during liturgy, he needs them to pay attention to what's going on, and he wanted to make sure that they were focused during that time. So it's just the reduction of the priest prayers because the length of the liturgy became extensive.
Okay. Alrighty. Costavi says, I like mastica.
Oh, all right. So we've got a fellow Hyoti out there, or it's just somebody that likes mastica.
Yeah.
I should have like a glass of water with a little mastica in the bottom. That's a traditional way of having it. So
sure. All right. Donis, you. Hello, Father.
Oh, okay.
How come there is no reading on Revelation during the liturgy?
That's a good question. The Catholic Church does read, and the Protestant Church does read from the Book of Revelation. However, the Orthodox Church felt a couple of things here. Number one, the Orthodox Church feels that the Book of Revelations is a difficult gospel to interpret properly. So, meaning, was it written for history of John's time, or was it written for the future? We're not sure about that. The Protestants will say it was written about the future. The Orthodox, certain Orthodox will say, no, it was written about Nero, and it was written about the time of the Romans. Okay. Number two, there is nothing for the Orthodox Church that is salvific in reading Revelation. Everything you need to know to be saved and to go to heaven are in the four Gospels. So Revelation does not add anything to that salvation. So what happens is people become so focused on trying to predict when when Christ will reappear, that they create their own theologies. Millennialism, okay? The idea the Chaism, what's the 1,000-year reign going to look like? What's going to happen when Christ actually comes? And what the Orthodox Church wants you to focus on is today. What are you doing today to ensure your salvation? So those are the two big reasons why the Orthodox Church did not want to put Revelations as a reading. But what they did do is they acquiesced to the Catholic Church, and they agreed to put it into the canonical collection of the New Testament books.
At no point in any Greek Orthodox service do they ever reference Jesus' probably his most famous line from Revelation, I am Alpha and Omega.
Oh, yes, yeah, but that's in the Gospels.
Okay, that's also in the Gospels.
That's also in the Gospels, right. Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. Oh, we have another drink.
Another
sharing the drinks.
Okay.
From David Braun. Currently White Russians, formerly Drambuie.
Oh, okay. All right.
I haven't had a White Russian in many years, but that used to be my drink of choice.
What makes the White Russian white?
The cream.
Okay.
Gosh, it's been so long since I made one. I believe it's like half and half.
Oh.
You can correct me if I'm wrong, David, but I believe it's the half and half, something like that. All right. It's delicious. Let's see. Let me go down. From Miggs, right? I'm not skipping
yes.
one. Okay. From Miggs, as far as the sacraments of initiation, why aren't any received after we reach age of reason? Also, how do the prayers for their celebrating come about?
Well, again, remember, the Orthodox Church does not have the concept of age of reason. That was a Protestant idea that came out during the early stages of the separation of the Protestant Church, the Reformation. Okay, so because the Orthodox Church practices infant baptism, it is impossible for the child to accept Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior by himself, so the parent speaks for him. So the Orthodox Church's reason for baptism or infant baptism can't be about the age of reason, because it makes no sense. All right, but what our reasoning is that it is their entry into the Christian faith, and through their godparent, a dedicated godparent, then they will be raised in the faith to understand why Jesus Christ is Lord and Savior. So this idea of age of reason and to delay that baptism or that until that point, okay, that's never been a concept of the early church. Because St. Paul talks about how entire families were baptized, and there's never been a practice of the Orthodox Church. Now, yeah, so we'll just, I think.
Okay, so what is at the end of the baptism? I'm trying to remember, because you always joke about it and say, well, hopefully longer. It says about to the age of 12, doesn't it? There's something say.
Right, but all it says is that it says that, well, here. See, I didn't even have to get up. See.
So, how are you doing, Presbytera?
I'm doing good. Well, hopefully I'm doing good. I just said I'm doing good. I hate that. Yeah, I'm doing well. I'm doing well. I'm doing well. I can't believe I said I'm doing good. Oh my gosh, that's like a pet peeve of mine. You should be able to go right to it. Find all the wet pages.
Yes. So you know what? That's interesting because the book by Vaporus does not have that final prayer. So only the book Constantino has it, and and I don't have Constantino's book here. But what it says is, and protect the child. Excuse me. Protect the child from all fire, flood, until he is 12 years old. It doesn't say anything about age of reason.
Flood. Oh, that's interesting.
Real quick, we got a super chat from Gus. Welcome back, Gus. How are you?
Nice to see you.
And he says, when Jesus released the demons from the man who lived on the island and dwelled in tombs, why did the demons want Jesus to send them into the pigs? Any theories? Good to see you. This is the Legion story.
This is the Legion story. So because in the beginning of that story, okay, they are trying to find out whether Jesus is the Son of God or whether he's not, and they say, don't send us into the don't send us into the abyss, all right? Meaning that don't utterly destroy us, all right? So by going into something else, okay, then they would still be saved so that they weren't being utterly destroyed because they tell him that, don't send us into the abyss. So what he allows that he does not destroy the demons, but interestingly, the controversy is that he allows the destruction of one of God's creation.
And did Jesus send them into the pigs, or did they go into the pigs?
Now that's interesting too, is because if you look at the Greek, you will see that the Greek is not in what we call the imperative or command form. So it's not go, it's go. If that is what you choose, then go. I'm not stopping you. So he did not command them to go in. The Greek is very clear. It was just him allowing that to happen, and they made that decision.
Because in English it's written that way, that,
go.
Yeah.
David Braun says Presbytera was right about the half and half.
Good. It's been many years, but that used to be my favorite.
Oh, okay. So
she wasn't even half wrong.
That's right. She wasn't even...
I should have another one of those soon to
celebrate.
Yes. All right. Sam says, hi, guys. I'm Baptist, but interested in Orthodoxy. Recently, I visited a Greek church, and some older Greek men looked at me like crazy, as if asking, why are you here? You're not even Greek.
Why don't you take this one? You've got stories.
I have stories? Well, you have more, because I didn't really encounter that too much more, because I was married to you, and the most I got was when we were at seminary was they'd see me and just assume I was not Orthodox because I didn't look Greek, and they would I remember one of the ladies comes up to me. I was going up for communion and said, "Are you prepared for communion?" Meaning you shouldn't be up there taking it. Yeah. But you saw it more in Tarpon because that was a regular thing.
Yeah, that was during that time. It's not like that anymore. But yeah, during the time that I was growing up, they were very very segregated. That's a good word. They were very segregated. It wasn't even for Orthodox. It was just for Greeks. So, but I mean, but you've been exposed to, when people, what's the first question that everybody was asking you is, are you Greek? And then when you tell them no, oh, we'll make you Greek, right? It comes out like that.
Yeah.
They don't want to know what you are. They're just going to make you Greek.
Yeah.
Does that process ever finish? Well, so Sam is dealing with this right now. So what advice would we give Sam so they can continue experiencing orthodoxy without feeling?
You just, Sam, look, you got to get past that. There's going to be people like that, but trust me, every single Greek Orthodox church has people who are also the exact opposite, who are very, very inviting and who will say, "Come sit down at our table." So one of the things you've got to be at a Greek Orthodox church, and I'm just using Greek Orthodox, okay, is we're not like the non-denominational where somebody comes up to you and says, "Hey, welcome, how are you doing? We haven't seen you here. Who are you?" We don't have that. We've tried for years to have greeting committees.
But there's reasons for that. I don't know if I want to go, well, okay, I'll just be honest. Because there are those that come to this church, any church, not just this one, but any church, Christmas, Easter, and
the CEOs.
They're CEOs, and they're not remembered because they hardly ever come. People in the past used to say, "Oh, welcome, are you new here?" And then they get all upset because how could you not know I'm a member here? And so Greeks, they're afraid to say welcome because that could be the
all right.
That's
okay.
why.
Yeah. All right. So that's a good point. But you do need to be. Pushy's not the right word, but you got to be out there, right?
You got to be extroverted.
Yeah, you got to be a little bit extroverted, and find they are there. I'm telling you, every single Greek Orthodox church, those people are there that are very, very welcoming, and you just got to kind of you stay with it, and try different tables. You got to just be bold. And when you have your cup of coffee in your hand, and you got your kuluraki or whatever it is you got in your hand, you see an empty chair, you go and you sit down. "Hey, how you doing? I'm Sam." And like I said, sometimes it's going to work out, sometimes it's not.
They'll never kick you out.
No, they'll never. No, they'll never kick you out. But you got to be a little extroverted.
And I've experienced this at many other ethnic churches as well. You know me. I used to travel a lot. I used to go to a lot of different churches growing up, and heck, even when I was doing video work, I one time walked into a Southern Baptist church to do a video, and I was the only one who looked like me in that church. And yes, everybody turned their head, like the whole church turned their head to look at me when I entered. How did I deal with it? I just started talking to people. It made a big difference.
Right.
But we do have a follow-up from Diane, who's actually doing a follow-up from Ted to this question. Back in my day, my grandmother had problems with other Greeks based upon where they were from.
Yes.
So now it gets into a more village situation.
Yeah, the order of questions are, okay, so are you Greek, right? Where are you from? Do you speak Greek? Okay, those are the three important questions, okay? If you can answer those questions successfully, then you can sit down at the table.
Yes. Oh, and Diane's also asking about the Macedonian question from the Buffalo, on the tour in the church. We had somebody from Buffalo, and they asked about the Macedonian church. Do you remember that question?
Oh, yeah.
Did you look up the answer? So I would say no, Diane, but that's on his list.
No, but it'll be a very quick 2 weeks.
Yes. Well, you had a lot going on, so, but make sure you put that on your list. Now you have two things to look up.
What's the other thing?
You've already forgotten.
Shall we?
Yes, let's move on. Carla, hello, Father. I was chrismated into the Orthodox faith in 2021.
Congratulations.
Would my Roman Catholic baptismal godparents still be my godparents? And if not, what type of relationship would they be called?
You know, and you know, you're gonna get a lot of varying answers on this. But you know what? They can still be your godparents because they still have a responsibility to make sure that you are, again, raised in the faith. But this would be done together with your Orthodox godparent now. So to make sure that there's a balance, all right? There are certainly many, many, many areas where the Orthodox Church and the Catholic Church are the same, okay? And there are certainly differences. So there is no need for you to sever the relationship that you had with your Catholic godparents. But now what you have is you have a new member of the family, and you want to maintain that balance so that you can go to your Orthodox godparent and say, what do we as Orthodox believe about this? Because this is now what I'm hearing from my godparents, and that way you can work with the two of them to kind of balance out now where you are in your Orthodox faith.
Okay, all right. Next one is from Pet Rock Concert. Is the fully divine nature of Christ the entire Trinity? And if so, does Christ then have four natures, the Trinity plus a human nature?
No, because excuse me.
You want some water?
Oh.
It's the dust from the
it is pretty terrible here. I'm surprised we're not all coughing.
So he has two natures. He has a divine nature. So he is one in essence with the Father and the Holy Spirit, but he is not the Father and he is not the Holy Spirit. He is one in essence with them. So he has his unique hypostasis, his personhood. So no, his divinity is his full divinity, the fullness of his divinity as described, one in essence, but with his own personhood.
Yeah, it doesn't necessarily say, it doesn't distinguish Christ and Holy Spirit or Christ and the Father as two separate divinities.
Right.
Because that's how you get up to four with this.
Yes, right.
All right.
Because then you're creating gods.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see. Rebecca
These
Shantz.
are good questions tonight. Wow.
Yeah.
All right.
Rebecca asks, where did the idea of telepathy come from?
Well, isn't that just a scientific idea, right?
Has it been proven that anybody has telepathy?
Well, I think they're doing studies. I mean, they've done studies, and there's certainly a belief that, the power of the mind is undiscovered. What Einstein's you're only using.
Power of mind, power of suggestion, power of much. I mean, this country has. I mean, you can go into a lot of CIA lore and so forth. The United States and Russia were competing against each other in Cold War with different possible, quote unquote, telepathic weapons and maneuvers.
Yeah, we wouldn't disregard it, but we haven't seen any clear-cut evidence of telepathic communication as a true mechanism.
Okay.
But no, we're not saying no, it doesn't exist. We don't know what the power of the mind is.
All right. Ted asks, who is the saint of the day today? Uh-oh, we got to get a book.
And it's after 5.
And it's after 5. And
Yes.
I'm using the books that Diane sent me.
So that would be June 9.
June 9th.
June 9.
June 9th. I wonder why he's asking that question. There must be something.
All right, while you're looking that up, I'm going to skip ahead to something I know you don't have to look up. Do you like or have you ever tried moonshine from Ancient Apostolic?
I have. Yes, I have. In fact, when I was in college was the first time that I had it, and we're talking about now American moonshine, right? I mean, good old boy moonshine. And, on the 9th of the month, we celebrate the memory of the Holy Father and God-bearer Cyril, Archbishop of Alexandria, who was, after St. Athanasius, who's the adamant defender of homoousios, or consubstantiality, the Church of Alexandria, thanks to St. Cyril, the champion of the Theotokos, the Mother of God, the touchstone of the dogma of the Incarnation. So,
all right.
So that's, and a little picture of St. Cyril there. Okay.
There he is.
So I had a friend, and they took me to Kentucky, I think it was. Went to Kentucky, and we visited we visited family, and it was everything that you would expect out of come on, what's that movie?
Dukes of Hazzard?
No.
Yeah.
Ding, 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 ding,
Oh,
ding.
Deliverance.
Deliverance. And because it was a porch, and it had the back seat of a Chevy as the couch, right? And so we come into the house, and and there are a couple of good old boys, and we sit on their couch. I mean, we sit on the chairs, and all of a sudden he reaches down underneath the cushions, and he pulls out this mason jar, and he goes, "Hey boy, you ever had any moonshine?" And because they could, look at me. I don't look like a good old boy, And I said, "No, I haven't. And they said, "You got to try some of this." Whoo-wee, that was some powerful stuff, because that was homemade in their still, which they never showed me, and and it was powerful.
It's a good fuel source.
Whoa, wow! It was a good fuel. It was clear too. It wasn't cloudy or anything like that. I knew enough to it was clear, but man, that stuff knocked me on my
Yes.
So yes, I have tried the actual moonshine, and then I saw it at the now in the liquor store they sell this like they put it in a like a tin can with a screw cap and call it moonshine.
Well, they get as close. There's diesel, there's Everclear. There are a lot of different types, but they're not very enjoyable drinks.
Yeah, but they're not even that strong.
Yeah.
They're weak. It's come on.
All right. Miggs asks, why are there so many similar litanies in the Divine Liturgy?
Oh, she must be talking about
He.
I did it again.
One day you'll
One
get it
day
right.
I'll get it
One
right.
day.
He. Okay. So he must be talking about again and again in peace let us pray to the Lord.
I'm guessing. Yeah.
Okay. So the idea is, again, there's a conversation that is happening between the deacon, the priest, and the people, the laity. All right. So there's this ongoing conversation. So we do say many times, and I'll start with the easiest one, which is Irini Pasi, okay, or peace be with you. And the priest is repeating that because there are certain times where you need to be at peace in order to understand what's happening. The consecration, the hearing of the gospel, the great entrance, receipt of Holy Communion. So those are those are times when you need to be at peace. So those things need to be repeated. Okay. The other ones, the three antiphons that we have in the beginning, where we have that litany of again and again in peace and help us, save us. We want to repeat that because what we want is we want God to hear our prayers on a consistent basis, that we are with our voices calling out to Him again and again to offer us peace, to offer us mercy. And so in that sense, God, as Father Eugene likes to say, God likes to hear those prayers again and again.
Real quick, there's a little bit of confusion as to why you gave the saint from the 9th when today is still the 8th. Could you explain that?
Oh, do you want to explain that?
No, you go ahead.
Oh, okay. So we reckon the day similar to how the Jews reckon the day, that the day begins after sunset. So now we've passed the point of sunset, and so we count this as the new day. That's why Vespers is the first service of the day, as it happens after sunset. And then the second would be the hours and then it would be Orthros or the Matins, and then we would have liturgy.
And we consider sunset, I mean, it's summer. Well, it's not summer yet, but it's getting close to summer. The sun sets later, but we still reckon it at 5:30.
Yeah, we use a time, but yes, it's based on the setting of the sun.
Okay, all right. Miggs, sorry, we just did that one. Holy Trinity is the only true God asks, can I do prostrations at home in front of the icons of our Lord?
100%, absolutely. And that's in fact that's exactly what the monks do when they retire to their cells. That's exactly what they do. Absolutely. Wow, that was an easy question.
They call them cells?
Cells. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Keli.
I have to find my place. Natalia asks, is it essential to have godparents at a baptism of a child? What about at a baptism of an adult? When did this tradition start?
Well, the idea of that's a good question. When did it start? I thought that I had it in my
catechism.
In my yes. But while this is loading here, why the and what was the question? What
about baptism of an adult?
Okay. Yeah. Well, we don't call them a godparent. We call them a sponsor. But they have the same role, that they are there to help guide you as you grow spiritually in the Orthodox Church. You need a guide. You can always come to the priest, but the sponsor is somebody who is a friend, who is there, who is always available to you, and that person is the one that helps guide you as you grow in your faith, helping you that yes, you should you can ask, what is fasting, or how should I fast? When should I take communion? What is communion? What are the what is he doing during liturgy?
Their own private orthodoxy questions answered.
Their own private orthodoxy questions and answered. Yeah, I like that. Okay.
All right.
But the question of that's an interesting.
When did it start? But also, can you have a baptism without a godparent? Because there's a question: is it essential for them to be there for a child? So I think the bigger question is: can you have a baptism without a godparent?
No, you cannot. You cannot have it without a sponsor. Let's call it a sponsor.
Okay.
We call it a godparent when it's a child, but it's still the same word. On the horse. On the horse is the name that we use, which is the sponsor. But we call it nuna, nuno, or we call it godparent when they're a child.
Okay. Let's see.
D.C. Robinson has a suggestion. If you want Tennessee moonshine, to try Old Smoky.
Old Smoky?
Old Smoky. Not even old. It's Old Smoky.
Well, okay. Well, old.
Yeah.
Well, we'll have to see, because, like I said, that was my new.
Is he bringing back whiskey of the week?
No.
No?
Moonshine of the week.
No, we can't do that.
Okay. So that is probably except for Asia, because Asia is in a class of their own. At least from the Western world, this is probably the strongest moonshine I've ever had. So this is Palenka. So this is Romanian moonshine. Hoo-wee. That's.
We should point out that we're not recommending.
No. I'm just pointing out. I mean, no, we're not promoting it, but I just wanted to show it that. So this was a wedding gift. That's why I brought it. So they gave it to me as a wedding, not our wedding.
I was going to say,
not our wedding.
That's an old bottle.
That's an old bottle, right? But no. So they gave me this just as what is part of their custom. As you can see, you can easily mistake that for water, right?
Oh yeah, you wouldn't want to.
You wouldn't want, no. This is probably the most powerful. So I would compare Old Smoky to that and see how it shaped up.
Wow.
All right. We got a beginning to the tradition?
That's what I'm getting it.
And while you're looking it up, Gus Ganem says, I thought there was only one baptism for the forgiveness of sin, referring back to the baptism where they have Catholic godparents, but now they're made it into the Orthodox Church. Wouldn't I think what they're asking is, wouldn't the Catholic godparents still be the godparents?
That's what I'm saying. You don't want to break that relationship. Yes, they would still be the godparents, okay, because they helped raise that child in the faith. But now that she's been chrismated and she's entered the Orthodox faith, she needs a guide in the Orthodox faith. But that doesn't discount what the role of the godparents that she's had previously. It doesn't destroy that.
All right. And
well,
while
he's still looking that up, what's up with your shirt?
My shirt.
Yeah.
Well,
Zenu is my
homeboy. This shirt proceeds. This is not my shirt. I have bought this shirt, but it is the proceeds of this shirt goes to there's a whole network on YouTube of YouTubers who are ex-Scientologists, and their mission is to help all those who escape from Scientology. They get out with nothing, no credit, no money, no jobs, so forth. And their foundation, which was begun with Leah Remini, helps them. So when I bought this shirt, the money went to help those escaping Scientology. So it's a joke because Zenu, anyway, I'm not a fan of Zenu, but this shirt goes for those who are leaving Scientology. So if you want to help, this is one way to do it.
So in the early church, and I'm just reading from the article that's on the catechism, on my catechism that's on the website. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but just very quickly. In the early church, emphasis was placed on the education of the faithful, of those who desired to enter the Christian faith. And as Christianity spread, there was the need to teach individuals before their baptism. And this systematic instruction, called katechitiko, okay, which meant to teach orally that which was obviously not written at the time. Okay, so that catechumen then had a spiritual guide, and so it started in the early church. However, in the 4th century, we see the bishops of the church publishing catechisms and encouraging then the role of the godparent.
All right. Final question is my question. What's up with the boxer?
Oh, yes. Good question.
Okay.
That's very, very prominent in our background.
Yes. So during during our festival every year, there are charities that are selected.
It's like 8 or 10 or something.
Yeah,
it was a long
there's
list.
actually 11. 11 this year. There was now what happens is each one of these charities will apply. Okay, and then they're reviewed by a board here at the church, and then we select those charities, and then those charities are each given a certain amount, whether it's $1,000, $2,000, $3,000. Okay, and so we make those presentations on the Friday of the festival. All right, and so one of the charities that we give to is Bethel Express, and so it's Bethel Express, so it's B, and what it says is, where would we be without you? And here, the image that you are holding is symbolic of what you have been to us as a ministry to the urban youth in the city of Rochester, because what they do is they assist urban youth, troubled youth, those kids, let's say, that can't get adopted, and they will work with them to find them homes or to better their lives. And so because it's that we're staying up to the fight, that we're helping in the fight, they gave me this. They gave our community this statue to represent that we're part of this fight.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
All right, well, that brings us to the end of tonight's episode. Thank you once again for everybody for for joining us. A lot of great questions, as always.
Yeah, very good. Very
I
good.
think.
And thank you for sticking with us during our 1 week hiatus. But it was very exciting. I'm very happy that we're starting to actually, lately especially, we're starting to meet a lot of our audience in person.
Yeah. We had Svetlana come.
Yeah.
We had Scott come, who gave us the 100th show episode. We've had Diane and Ted now that have come.
And then we had a couple from Canada came down. And
Yes, right. That's right.
Yes.
We had a cat. So it's great that you guys are coming. We absolutely love it. And when you come here, the meal's on us.
If you're a fan of the show and you're visiting us, the meal is...
He had to add all the qualifiers in.
Well, you have one last comment there.
Oh, you do?
Yes, from Gus. Gus says, I have some real moonshine flavored from Kentucky stills. Double distilled, I will send you. Can you send that through the mail? Is that they have to put on a truck that says not inflammable?
Not flammable. Well, I'm gonna have to. We'll follow that up in our second hour. Moonshine questions answered. I think
moonshine questions answered.
Yeah, there we go. Alcohol. I mean, that we would have the most popular channel on YouTube.
That's how we're gonna get numbers. All right.
No. Well, on that note, once again, thank you everybody, and we'll be back this Sunday with our normal Sunday service live stream, and we'll be back next week at a regular Thursday time.
Great. And again, thanks, Presbytera. It's always great to have you here, and make sure that I stay on track and that I use the right verbiage. All right. Demos, thanks a lot. And certainly thanks to everybody out there. We really appreciate you all. And remember, like, share, subscribe.
And I think you're also going to appreciate DC Robinson, who's telling us he's going to visit from Tennessee and bring some Old Smoky.
Ooh, I'm looking forward to that.
I'm very excited about that.
Good, we'll trade, because he'll try some of this, and then I'll get to try some of that. That sounds like a deal.
Yes, of course, Diane says you can't send anything flammable in the mail, but I'm willing to go out. Good night, everyone.
Night.
Good night.